Okay, right. So, this question, task 4, a little bit of a, to be honest, even I missed the one of the last ones, and I'll explain which one that was. But for these ones, this is really talking. This is a chapter, all chapter, kind of a chapter, a bit of chapter 2 and a bit of chapter 4, but mostly chapter 4. This question of what limited liability really is, right? So again, limited liability is the fact that your personal assets are protected, and unlimited liability is typically what happens. So sole traders have unlimited liability. Unfortunately, their personal assets are at risk. So this question says, what's the benefit? Well, having unlimited liability is not a benefit because your assets are at risk. You don't have limited liability. And here, this is the little trick question. It says no requirements to prepare annual accounts by a certain date. That's where the problem is. There is just literally no requirement to prepare annual accounts at all, right? So you don't have to prepare that. But you do have complete control over your business decisions. So that's kind of the scenario there. I don't have the click down here. A private company, a private limited company is owned by, I imagine, I'll look at the answers in a second, that it's owned by its shareholders. Those are the owners. So I'm sure we can look at that. Which of the following owners have limited liability? Great. So limited liability. So limited liability, PLCs, so anything that's limited, public limited companies, partnerships are just sole traders. Right? Partnerships just sole traders. So the answer is 2 and 3. These guys have limited liability. So you can see they're asking you some questions about limited liability. So you need to be happy with what limited liability is. I'm sure you are, but you just need to make sure you're happy with that. Okay, let's go on to the next. To be a charity, they talk about this idea of charitable status, if you like. So we have something called the Charities Act. Right, that decides whether you're going to be if you're a charity and you're acting really, like any normal charity, you collect money for the benefit of the public. That's kind of the idea. The aim is not to make profit, right? The aim is not to make profit. Now, there are a couple of IASs, right, that I discussed. IAS 1 tells us how we actually lay out our set of financial statements. You have to have the statement of profit or loss. You have to state the statement of financial position. You have to have some other things called the statement of cash flows. You don't need to know those, but the key point is it talks about the format, and that's IAS 1. If you remember IAS 2, IAS 2 is what tells us how we deal with inventories. That we always recognize inventories at the lower of cost and net realizable value a few times. That's IAS 2. IAS 2 tells us about inventories. There is no such thing as IAS 2012. They're just numbers, and you need to know about IAS 1, 2, and I believe IAS 16. IAS 16 has to do with property, plant, and equipment. So chapter 4 is something you just need to kind of gloss over and make sure you read. But in terms of the format, it's IAS 1. This is what maybe personally I'd written something different here when it said the management. Personally, with shareholders. Well, with shareholders, decision-making relating to their personal investment, that's what they've gone for. I was in two minds. I was thinking, well, shareholders might also want to assess the future performance, but they've gone with decision-making, and management definitely want to be looking at what's happening with other organizations, comparing that with the business sector. In terms of assessing the security of a loan, I would go with the bank. It's a stakeholder question. So the bank are probably looking at the assessment of the security of a loan. Maybe I have a funny feeling this must be, therefore, to assess future performance, this might be new investors. What the reason why you'd have different stakeholders coming in. And so you'd have other stakeholders like workers and other people, employees or supplier money back after supplying the product. So it's just watching out for what's the closest to it as well. Great, and that is question 4.